Hey guys, this is Miss Eisencraft, and I'm here to give you a set of notes on three forms of quadratics. So as we're working through this function, you're going to see quadratic functions written in three different ways. And we're going to really go into those in a lot more depth during the next couple weeks, but we wanted to give you guys an overview of all three. So quadratic equations, much like linear equations, can be written in infinitely many ways. For example, like linear equations, we're very used to seeing them in y equals mx plus b, but we also know you can see a linear equation in standard form like ax plus by equals c. And while we might not be as used to it, or it might not be as easy to graph, it still makes a straight line. So quadratic functions, same idea. You can rewrite it just using, basic mathematics. You can rearrange the equation infinitely many ways, but there's three forms that we're really going to be working with because they can be helpful in different circumstances. So the first form is called standard form, okay? And that is, when you see something, you'll notice something is in standard form when it looks like this. When a quadratic equation is in standard form when it looks like this. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are all numbers, okay? So this is the general form, okay? General form of a quadratic written in standard form. Okay, so what it might look like, here's some examples. You might see something like this. Y equals 2x squared plus 8x minus 3. Or maybe you'll see y equals x squared. So a value being 1 minus 3x plus 2. Okay, lots of different ways, but when you see it basically in rank order from highest exponent, x squared, then just an x, and then just a plain number, you know you've got standard form. Standard form is something that you'll first notice in standard form is the a value out front. This a value out front, as we start studying all the forms, we're going to notice a number out front is often called the a value, and it can quickly tell you if the parabola opens up, if that a value is positive, or down. And we're also going to start discovering that it has something to do with the width of the parabola, how wide or narrow that parabola is. Another nice thing you can see in standard form is this last number right here, just like in slope-intercept form of linear equations, this is the y-intercept. So it's like a single point. It's where that U-shaped graph will cross. But because parabolas will cross the y-axis, but because they aren't symmetrical, it's really not super helpful for graphing, but it is a point you definitely know just by looking here. So those at a quick glance are what you can see in standard form. Okay, the next form is super helpful for graphing, which is called vertex form. It looks probably to me, I think, the most scary, but it's actually the most revealing as far as graphing. Like you can quickly get all the information you need from it to graph. So it looks like this. The general form of a quadratic in vertex form is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And you might be asking, where's this h and k? What does it mean? Okay, we're just going to go with it. A, h, and k are numbers. Okay, and this again is called vertex form, and this is it written in general. So here's some examples of what you might see using numbers. So you might see y equals 2x minus 3 squared plus 8. And you'd be like freaking out, like, what is this? It is a quadratic written in vertex form. Okay. It also, you might not have a number out front. Remember, that could be like a number, or if the number is missing out front, we consider that a 1 or ninja 1. You could have something like this. But what's going to always be true in vertex form is you're going to have, this is going to be squared for sure. If it's another power, it's not a quadratic. All right, so these are a couple examples of something written in vertex form. Why vertex form is important? Well, first of all, you on this one can also see the A value. So the number out front here, A, and it's called factored out. The number that's factored out in front here, the single number like 2 or 1, and its value, if it's positive or negative, will again tell you if the parabola opens up or down, and it will tell you, it will have something to do with how wide or narrow it is. But what's super fun in vertex form is the vertex. It's just staring you straight in the face. But it's a little confusing with the signs, but we'll go over that when we do vertex form. Basically, you just take out the H and the K, and that's your vertex. And why that's so helpful? Because in a parabola, since a parabola is symmetrical, you want to build the parabola from the vertex, like that center point. That vertex is HK. That is where it is located on the coordinate plane. And the axis of symmetry, the line that like cuts the parabola in half, goes right through H. It is actually the line, the vertical line, X equals H, whatever this number is. And so you can just center your parabola, you know where it's built from, and then we're going to talk about how using patterns you can then just plot your other points without having to plug in all these numbers and making an input-output table. So vertex form is really nice because it kind of centers you, tells you where to start, and then you can build your parabola. Okay, axis of symmetry and vertex are really easy to see in vertex form. All right, the last one is called factored form. And this one we're going to spend quite a bit of time getting equations in factored form, but here's what factored form looks like. Y equals A times, so sometimes there's a number factored out here, and then there's two sets of parentheses, each with an X, and there's no squared because what happened is where it was factored out. Factored is kind of a fancier name for dividing, sort of, and well, it will look like this, where A, P, and Q will be numbers. So you might see, here's some examples of what that would look like. Y equals, let's do something, X minus 3 times X plus 8. This is a quadratic. I know you don't see the squared, but because X is occurring twice here and it's all one equation, it is an X squared equation. It is a quadratic. You might also see this. Okay, so factored form can be very, very useful in solving quadratics. Solving quadratics, we oftentimes will set them equal to 0 and find the solutions. And those solutions, when we were talking a bit earlier, because a quadratic is U-shaped, it often will hit the x-axis in two spots. We have different names for those. Those are called the roots, or the solutions, or the x-intercepts. And factored form, it's really easy to see those. It is just the x-intercept is whatever p is and whatever q is. So the x-intercepts, also known as the roots or the solutions, are p and q. So these numbers here. And if we write them as a coordinate, it would be P0, Q0. So in this case, and we'll go over this in more detail later, the x-intercept here would be 3 and -8. And we'll talk about why the signs switch on some, why are we switching them later. But what you can easily see, you can't really see, well, you can't see the vertex quickly. You could find it because it's symmetrical. You could just divide this or average this out, find the center. There's lots of techniques, but what you can quickly see is the solutions or the x-intercepts. You can also see if there's a number factored out front here, the a value. And so again, you can determine if it's going to open up or down and how wide or narrow it is, depending on that number you factored out. So again, this is just an overview, and I expect it to be a set of notes that you come back to and remember, oh, why is factored form useful? Why is vertex form useful? Or what do I look at when a quadratic is presented to me this way? And we're really going to focus on graphing at first. But I wanted to just show you, because I think it's confusing that when we just jump around all these different forms when we don't give them a name. So standard form. When a problem is written in standard form, a key feature, so this is standard form, a key feature you can quickly see is the y-intercept, okay? A value, also a key feature. It's a key feature in all of them, so I'm not going to highlight it. Okay, in vertex form, my personal favorite. A vertex form, you can see, guess what? The vertex. Also the axis of symmetry, which is related to the vertex, the line that cuts down the middle, that saws it in half, the axis of symmetry. So vertex form, the key feature that really you can see really easily is the vertex. And in factored form, let's do that in blue, factored form, the key features you could see really quickly are the x-intercepts, also referred to as roots or solutions. And that's where so you can quickly determine where the parabola or quadratic will cross the x-axis. Okay, hope that's helpful. Didn't go too long, and I miss seeing you all, and good luck on the 2 activities for the week.